So we're going to start off the haircut, taking a section from the parietal ridge all the way back to behind the crown. And we're going to take it, twist it into a nice little Zulu knot, and keep it nice and clean and out of the way. Then we're going to start at the nape of the neck. And we're going to work our way up with a traveling guide all the way to the occipital bone. Once we reach that point, then everything's going to come down into a stationary guide, keeping a lower elevation just to build up a nice little weight line right along the occipital bone. Notice that everything that we're cutting right now is all palm to palm. Nice clean sections, keep the hair out of the way. Make sure that we get the most precise cut that we can. Now you see the elevation starts to lower as we work our way up. Just to build a slight little bit of a weight line right at the occipital. We're not trying to build too much weight. This would definitely be based on the density of your guest, but just working our way up just to build a slight bit of a weight line right at the occipital bone. Yeah, showing you just how we're lowering the elevation right there. Take one more section, basically at the division point on the head, and that'll be over directed back, pushing more weight forward, and again increasing that weight line right there. Now we're just going to go through, we cut everything diagonal forward, so now we're going to go back, diagonal back, and just do a little bit of cross check. Key factor on this is just to make sure that as you take those diagonal back sections, they're being brought out directly from the head, just like you cut it when you were cutting the diagonal forward. Now we're working on the round of the head, so we're going to cut more of a round shape on this. Working our way diagonal back, elevation is straight out from the head. We're going to cut that. You notice that I comb under, and that's really just to kind of push a little bit of hair up, and then when we cut it, it'll give a little bit of length right around that temple area. A little bit of freedom, something to play with later on in the haircut. Now everything's being combed down to that section because we always want to comb our new hair towards the guide, and we'll follow that, connect it right to the back of the head. Just keep working our way back, making sure that I'm always combing the hair down, keeping a consistency within the elevation. And everything's pretty much straight out from the head because I don't want to build up too much weight within this part of the haircut, because the top is going to overlay in this portion of the haircut. Clip everything away, keep it nice and clean throughout. Now you'll notice that we switch from horizontal to vertical throughout this point. The reason I like to do that is just because it's going to give me a lot more control with the weight removal towards the top of the head. If you're working horizontally, you're going to have a lot more control with the shape, but you're not going to have as much control with the weight removal. So now I just want to really focus on that round of the head and how much weight I'm leaving or removing. In this case, we're pretty much going out at a 90-degree angle from the head. You'll notice that it still follows round because I'm still following the round of the head as I pull this out vertically. So the shape has not changed within this haircut. The only thing that's changed is my finger placement and how I'm holding the hair. Work our way up. Took a couple different combs in that just to shift it slightly because the head's going to round a little bit different. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Diagonal forward, still working palm to palm. The key, I think, to any haircut, especially this haircut, is just keeping the consistency. And I know when I move to the right hand side on this haircut, it becomes a little bit more difficult for me. So I try to really focus on my elevation how I'm holding the hair, making sure that my finger angles are always the same. We'll go back through and we'll cross-check after this, which will definitely ensure that we have a perfect haircut at the end. But it's just really keeping the consistency within this haircut to keep the balance working throughout. Diagonal forward all the way up to that division point. Again, that elevation. As we get to the occipital, everything's going to come back down to it because we're just building up a slight bit of weight. So all the way up until the occipital, it's all traveling and we're removing all the weight. And then once we get to the occipital, everything comes down to it just to build up that tiny little bit of weight line. Gives the head a little bit of a better shape, more natural looking shape with this short haircut. You'll notice when I take my sections, I'm only taking a little bit of hair. I'm not trying to grab the whole section at once. We're just grabbing a tiny little bit of hair, letting the rest fall down. What that's gonna do is ensure the consistency, because if I'm trying to grab too much hair at once, we're gonna bunch it all together. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna be moving the guide all around. So just grabbing a little bit of hair for the guide, bringing in the new hair, and making sure we get that perfect line in there. Go through, cross check. Making sure I'm holding all the hair directly out from the head. So I'm not trying to cut anything right now. I'm just trying to really clean up the lines and make sure that I don't have any stray hairs or anything that, looks funny within the haircut. Just like the opposite side, we're working through diagonal back section, combing the hair down to the guide, and then just cutting a nice round layer, connecting it into the back. When I'm cutting hair, I'm really focusing a lot on the movement of the head. So as that head starts to move away from me, because her head's round, then that's when I'm going to switch to my vertical sectioning. It's going to make it a lot easier for me to control that weight. But as of now, I'll just work my way up until it starts to round off, cutting horizontal, diagonal back, and working with the round of the head. Now we'll switch vertical, just as you can see. Still not taking too much hair down. I want to work a little bit of hair at a time. It's never a race for me in the salon. I want to get the hair perfectly cut, and then the more time I spend on it wet, the less time I really spend blowing it dry, and the better the haircut is. So I don't have to do a lot of fixing at the end. That's not what dry hair cutting's for. It's really, dry hair cutting's for, creating and adding and, having a little bit of fun with the haircut. And this is really about building the foundation. So I don't want to rush through it. I want to make sure everything is nice and perfect. Still working vertically with the round of the head. You'll notice as I comb that back, it should flow really nice because we cut it round. So if you comb it to the round of the head, you should see a nice flow with the layering. Now what you'll notice, as I start to cut this, the elevation is the direction is straight out. That'll build up a little bit of even more of a weight line in the back, which will be nice for this haircut. Everything's being over directed back, so it's gonna push the weight to the front of the head. But I'm still following the curve. So this is almost like a pie shape sectioning. Not coming directly out. We're following that round, so you just take it in pie shape. You'll notice I split the front and the back, so right in the middle of the head where the apex of the head is, I split that. I like to divide that within the haircut because you're really working with two different parts of the head. And I like to work on the back first, then we move into the front. Now we're going to connect the back into the top. Again, pie shape sectioning. Everything's pretty much at 90 degrees. So we're going to cut that line, directing straight out. Then we're going to go through and point cut, just to remove some extra weight from the hair. It's always good with I think a short haircut to have a little bit of texture in there as well. And we can build more in with the dry cut, but just get a little bit of weight out when it's wet. So go through, cut the line, then bring it back up, go through and point cut. Just works really well for me. You know, it's techniques that you pick up along the way when you're learning hair cutting. Again, straight out from the head, following the round, over directed straight up. And once I get that line, then we'll go through and point cut. Right now I'm traveling, using a traveling guide, working around. Then when I get to the midpoint of the head, around the apex, a little bit past, then I'm gonna over direct everything to the apex. So everything's gonna come back to the middle of the head. It's kind of hard to see in this video, but everything's just coming back to the center. Not all the way back to the back of the head, because that would push the front way too long, but just back to the center of the head. Once we get that line cut, we'll go through point cut again. Now on the shorter side, the weak side, we're just gonna go through and follow that round. I like to make this nice and soft. I don't want too much heavy weight build up on the weak side. So pretty much just go through, cut that with the round of the head, connecting that vertically. Then we're gonna go through and remove a little bit of weight from the fringe, cut a little bit of a side angle. So you'll see me pushing the hair away from my body, and it's going right over the part line. And the sectioning, the importance of that is really making sure that you're following the round of the head with that layering. Now Brian's gonna go in here, he's gonna do a little bit of flat wrapping. Works really well for this. You know, he'll leaf it up a little bit, just give it a little bit of volume, but nice and smooth for this haircut. Just finishing up on the iron work. Nice, smooth and polished. Then we're gonna go through dry and just over direct that fringe right over the part line, low elevation, you know, just add a little bit more of an angle to it. This is really personal preference, the preference of your guest, you know, what you guys come up with together. So I hope you guys enjoyed the haircut. Anything you guys are looking to learn or anything, please, you know, let us know. Shoot us an email, info@gratitudeeducation.com. Visit us, gratitudeeducation.com, and appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.